Hello. It's 7:47 p.m. on an ordinary Monday evening. You're relaxing on the couch, TV flickering in the background, dinner plates still on the table. Nothing feels unusual, until it does. You reach to adjust your blanket, and suddenly your left arm doesn't respond. You stare at it, concentrating, telling it to move the way you always have. It stays still. You try to call out to your wife in the next room, but the words tumble out thick and unclear, as if your tongue and lips no longer understand each other. She rushes in after hearing your voice and freezes for a split second. You see it on her face, concern, confusion, then fear, because she recognizes what's happening. And deep down, so do you. Right in that moment, an artery supplying your brain has become blocked, cutting off essential oxygen and nutrients. Inside your skull, brain cells are suffocating and shutting down far faster than most people imagine. Neuroscientists estimate that every single minute, up to 1.9 million neurons are lost, connections, memories, and abilities disappearing permanently. The longer blood flow is interrupted, the more difficult recovery becomes. In just a few hours, a person's speech, movement, independence, or even identity can be altered forever. If your stomach tightened or your heartbeat sped up while hearing that scenario, it's because you already understand on some level that this isn't fiction. Strokes are not rare events. They occur thousands of times every single day worldwide, and many of them lead to life-changing disability or death. A stroke, also called a cerebrovascular accident, CVA, is currently the second leading cause of death globally and the number one cause of severe long-term disability. Many people know someone who survived a stroke, but was never the same afterward. What fewer people realize is that the outcome often depends on how fast the signs are recognized and treated. Most people don't know what to do during those first critical minutes. Today, you're going to learn information that very few people outside of medical settings are aware of. How modern medicine can sometimes interrupt a stroke in progress, and why the first step doesn't start in the hospital, but with you. Before we continue, take a moment to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Education like this truly can protect someone you care about. And in the comments, tell me, has anyone in your family had a stroke? And what country are you watching from? Knowing this helps us reach people who need this information most. Now let's break down what's really happening during a stroke and why 9 out of 10 people lose precious brain tissue, simply because no one ever explained it clearly. There isn't just one type of stroke. Understanding the difference is crucial because the treatments are not the same. 1. Ischemic stroke, about 85% of cases. This is the clot type. A blood clot, or sometimes a piece of plaque from inside an artery, travels through the bloodstream and wedges itself in a vessel that supplies part of the brain. This works like a cork blocking a bottle. No blood passes through. The section of brain beyond that blockage is starved of oxygen and begins to die within minutes. 2. Hemorrhagic stroke, about 15% of cases. This is the bleed type. A weakened blood vessel inside the brain ruptures, allowing blood to leak into the surrounding tissue. The pooled blood increases pressure inside the skull and damages brain cells directly. This often happens due to uncontrolled high blood pressure or a weakened spot in a vessel called an aneurysm. Regardless of the type, the medical rule is simple. Time equals brain. The brain uses 20% of all oxygen in your body, even though it makes up only a small fraction of your weight. Without oxygen, brain cells survive for only a few minutes before irreversible damage sets in. Here's the simple screening test used by professionals, family members, and even strangers to recognize stroke quickly. It's called Be Fast, and once you learn it, you won't forget it. B. Balance. Sudden loss of balance or coordination. The person might stagger or appear unsteady. E. Eyes. Sudden blurred vision, double vision, or partial loss of sight in one or both eyes. F. Face. Ask the person to smile. If one side droops or appears weak, this is a warning sign. Arm. Ask them to raise both arms. If one arm drifts down or feels numb, take it seriously. S. Speech. Speech may become slurred, jumbled, slow, or difficult to understand. T. Time. Seek emergency help immediately. Don't wait to see if it gets better. If you observe even one of these signs, call emergency services. In the US, that means 911. In Europe, 112. In other countries, contact your emergency number or go to the nearest hospital as quickly as possible. Delaying treatment is one of the biggest reasons strokes cause severe disability. There are two major approaches in hospital settings that can stop or reverse certain strokes when used correctly and on time. 1. Thrombolysis, the chemical unclogger. To explain this, let me tell you about my neighbor, Mr. Carson, age 57. One evening, his wife heard a thump from the living room. She found him sitting upright, looking confused, with one side of his face drooping and saliva pooling at the corner of his mouth. She noticed he couldn't move his right arm properly, and his words were jumbled. Because she knew the signs, she called 911 immediately. The paramedics arrived quickly, transported him to the hospital, and the care team performed a CT scan to rule out bleeding. It was confirmed ischemic stroke, the clot type. That meant he was a candidate for a treatment called thrombolysis. Thrombolysis involves a medication called alteplase, TPA. It's delivered through a vein and travels through the bloodstream, dissolving the clot that caused the stroke. But there is a critical limitation. It must be administered within 4.5 hours of symptom onset. After that time window, the risk of causing bleeding in the brain becomes higher than the benefit of dissolving the clot. In Mr. Carson's case, the treatment began quickly. Barely 30 minutes later, he started moving his hand again, to the relief of everyone in the room. His wife cried, one of the nurses smiled, and the neurologist nodded because they all understood what that meant. Brain tissue had been saved. That's the power of recognizing a stroke early. The second breakthrough, the modern medical miracle known as mechanical thrombectomy. Meg lives alone in a quiet apartment at 11:30 p.m. She goes to bed just like any other night. Everything feels normal. The next morning at 7:15 a.m., her alarm rings. She reaches out to turn it off, but her arm doesn't move. She tries again, nothing. Confused, she forces herself to sit up and collapses. Her entire left side is gone. No movement, no strength, no control. She tries to call out, but her voice won't come. Not even a whisper. Dragging her body with her functioning right arm, she slowly crawls across the floor and reaches the phone. Trembling, she dials her son, Michael. He picks up. Mom? Mom, what's happening? She can barely form a sound. I'm coming. I'm coming right now. 30 minutes later, he finds her on the floor, terrified and unable to move. He calls 911 immediately. The ambulance arrives fast, but there's a critical problem. No one knows when the stroke began. Was it 11:30 p.m., midnight, 3 a.m.? This matters because traditional clot-busting medication, thrombolysis, only works within a 4.5-hour window, and Meg is far beyond that limit. Just 10 years ago, this story would end with lifelong disability. Wheelchair, speech problems, permanent paralysis. But this is 2026, and medicine has changed. At the hospital, Meg is rushed for a CT scan to confirm bleeding, then a CT angiogram, a detailed scan of blood vessels. The images leave no doubt. A large clot completely blocking the left middle cerebral artery, one of the main highways that supplies blood to the brain. She's taken straight to the neurointerventional suite. Bright monitors, fluoroscopy screens, the massive C-arm X-ray system hovering over her head, a team of specialists, neurointerventional radiologists, anesthesiologists, nurses, and technologists, move with absolute precision. Meg is awake but sedated, able to respond but calm. The procedure begins. Through a tiny puncture in the femoral artery of her groin, no larger than a pencil tip, a catheter is inserted. This is the same artery used in heart procedures. But today, the destination is much more delicate. The brain. A microcatheter, thinner than a piece of spaghetti, threads its way upward. The fluoroscopy screen displays her arteries like a road map, from the aorta to the carotid arteries, then into the twisting cerebral vessels, until finally the clot comes into view. A dark, dense mass starving millions of neurons every minute. The doctor gently pushes the microcatheter through the clot. Inside the catheter is a revolutionary tool, a tiny metal mesh device called a stent retriever, folded tightly. When it reaches the clot, the doctor opens it. The mesh expands and wraps around the clot like a cage. 0.15 seconds past 0.30 seconds. The room falls silent except for the steady tones of the monitors. Then, slowly, steadily, the doctor pulls the device back out. When the catheter emerges, everyone sees it. A black clot the size of a raisin, captured inside the mesh. At that exact moment, Blood surges back into the dead silent artery. Oxygen returns. Nutrients return. Life returns. The doctor turns to her. Miss Maria, can you lift your left arm for me? The room holds its breath. Silence. Then slowly, trembling, her left arm rises. She begins to cry. The nurse begins to cry. Because what they are witnessing is nothing short of a modern medical miracle. A clot has been physically removed from a human brain. A stroke. Stopped in real time. 30 years ago, all we could do was give aspirin, lower blood pressure, and hope. 20 years ago, we finally had clot-busting drugs. 10 years ago came the breakthrough. Mechanical thrombectomy, the clot-fishing miracle that can save brain tissue even up to 24 hours after symptoms begin in selected cases. Medicine has evolved from watching the brain dietto entering the brain, retrieving the blockage, and restoring life. But here's the truth. None of this works without you. Meg survived because her son recognized something was wrong, and he acted. Mr. Carson survived because his wife called 911 immediately instead of waiting. These miracles don't begin in the hospital. They begin in your living room. At your dinner table. In the moment you notice. A dropping smilia, weak arm, a slurred warden, unsteady step. And instead of saying, maybe it's nothing, you move, you call, you act. You are the first responder. Not the doctor. Not the hospital. You. Your speed, your awareness, your courage. That is what saves a brain. So remember this. BFST balance, sudden dizziness. Eyes, vision changes. Face, drooping. Arm, weakness. Speech, slurring. Time, call emergency services immediately. Share this video with your family, your friends, your co-workers. Because one day, someone you love may depend entirely on you remembering these words. You are the hero of this story. And never forget, time is brain.